On today's show, we're diving into one of the weirdest but fascinating AI stories in the music right now. A mysterious band called the Velvet Sundown blew up on Spotify and social media, but no one knew who they were. Their bio looked very AI written. Their photos were clearly AI generated, and people started wondering, is the music also AI generated too? So stay tuned, we're gonna talk about it. I'm Daniel,
I'm Matheus.
and this is the Human AI Experience. So, the story basically started with something like something coming out of a Black Mirror episode, more or less. So, back in April 2024, a band named the Velvet Sundown just started gaining a lot of traction online, right? And to be honest, their songs are not bad. They're actually quite cool. It's a bit more. It has a very interesting vibe, and they started with several songs already on Spotify. But there was a problem. No one knew who they were. They just came out of nowhere. They never played live, or at least not that everyone knew. So, what? Who was this band, right?
Yeah, actually, their music are pretty good, and you can feel the references. For example, Led Zeppelin references, even the name, Velvet, and it reminds like Velvet Underground and like Sundown too. This kind of there's a lot of clues that something was kind of different from the normal band.
Yeah, and then their Instagram, they had an Instagram and then I think like a Twitter account or X. And all of their images were really fake. It looked like this indie band, like with a bit of low tempo rock and with an interesting vibe. But, all their photos were all with some filters on it. It was quite funny. But yeah, it was something off, and people started be very intrigued, and then it blew up, right? A lot of news outlets started talking about. Reddit and Twitter basically went up to discuss, okay, this band isn't real, and then people were trying to figure out how to unmask the mystery behind the band.
Yeah, and I think the discussions went even if they were monetizing. Is it possible to monetize AI generated music? So there was a lot of discussions about that too. Like, is it fine to monetize something that is generated by AI? Now there's a discussion even on YouTube about that. So there was an interesting conversation, and people were like trying to figure out if everything was real, if you can generate money with that. It was Suno the tool. There's so many different topics around the band, so it was quite nice to see that.
Yeah, and then a lot of speculation if this was like some sort of marketing stunt from one of these AI platforms. Yeah, Suno or Audio. But apparently it wasn't like that. But before we continue the discussion, I think it's really interesting to let's just play maybe 30 seconds of one of their most famous songs, the one that have 1.5 million monthly listeners. So it's called Dust on the Wind. We're gonna play it now.
Dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother, where do we go? Raise your hand, don't look away, sing out loud. a song, fight till the end.
Yeah, so it is. I actually quite like this song. So I think it's. I mean, the lyrics are a bit funny, but it's still pretty good. Like, it has a nice vibe at least. The I like the vocals.
The whole music looks good, you know, like not only the vocals, but the music itself. It's quite well composed, let's say. So it is interesting, and you clearly see the references, as we mentioned, like the 80s and the 70s vibe, you know, this kind of it reminds me Greta Van Fleet, like sort of a mix between Greta Van Fleet and Led Zeppelin. So this is kind of a new thing, you know. So it is interesting to see this kind of music, and especially because it's getting a really good. The AI is getting really good in doing music, you know. So I have seen an artist that she wrote music. She sing this song, recorded, and then she put it on Suno to make the background, you know, the background music. So it upgraded so much the music that she made, and I think this is something that used to be only for real good artists, you know, like to have a producer that will enhance your music, you know. So now it's available for all of us, you know.
Yeah, I think it's those platforms, like all the AI generated platforms, are just gonna get better and better. And yeah, it's just up to us to figure it out if we're gonna use it to enhance ourselves or just use it for the sake of using it, right? And I think people were suspecting, and I think one of the problems with one of the issues that with this ban is that it was mostly the images that kind of like let them we was quite generating some reactions to it, not necessarily the music, right? It was the music, the images of the band were really fake, so that's why people started questioning. It wasn't necessarily the songs, but and
you can even suspect about the voice, you know, because the voice, I believe it's quite hard to replicate in all the music. So if you listen to 3 or 4 music, you see the differences of the voices. Of course, if they are four members, which one of them can sing one song, let's say, but you can feel that it's not the same voice. So usually we have one vocal for the whole album, and also and the music itself kind of changes a little bit the vibe, you know, from one music to another. So it's not fully one band. Like for example, AC/DC, you can definitely see that there's the same band and all their albums, and they have their own style of music, you know. So I don't feel that clearly on Velvet Sundown, you know. So
yeah, there's a pattern, right? You can recognize that the style of these songs is definitely AC/DC, for example, and then they don't necessarily manage to. You can't quite tell that they are following the same vibe. And I think, you know, that's the burden of most of these AI generated platforms, right? It's really hard to keep it consistent because they are basically regenerating every new prompt. They regenerate it even if you tell it to keep it the same style. So then some losses will happen in there. So it's smart if you're using just to enhance yourself, not necessarily to just completely or generate completely. Esquece essa parte. Eu vou.
Tranquilo.
Para na parte que eu falo um pouco do problema dessas plataformas, que elas não conseguem, que elas só conseguem gerar, elas não conseguem manter consistência. So, I saw a video of Rick Beato, which is a famous music producer and YouTuber, doing an analysis of this band because people started sending him the band, and then because he does a lot of music analysis on YouTube, then he decided to do a special episode about this. And what he started doing is to isolate the tracks from another song that was produced in the 70s, for example, with like recorded in studio with all the different tracks. And he gives an example with Led Zeppelin and did do that. And then he compares he does the same analysis, comparing Led Zeppelin, all the tracks extracted, and Velvet Sundown, and just to see if he could figure it out if it's actually an AI band. So we're gonna play a clip of his analysis on YouTube, and then we're gonna link to the full his full video. So we're only gonna tá foda hoje. Vou falar de novo, tá? So we're gonna play a clip of his analysis, and then we're gonna link to the original video in the show notes. It's really interesting, and he kind of cracked it. So check it out.
So I'm going to begin with playing an old song and breaking it apart into these separate tracks using AI, and we'll listen to hear if there are artifacts. Artifacts are just weird things that sound garbled. With old songs or new songs, it should be able to split it apart pretty well. And if it's an AI tune, it should have a problem doing that. That's my supposition. So let's see if we're right. I'm going to start with a Led Zeppelin song. So that's my old song. I'm going to use Good Times, Bad Times, and see how well it splits out the vocals, the drums, guitars, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we go. Guitars, drums.
Told what it means to be a man.
Listen. Notice the reverb sounds complete at the end of it, and the reverb at the end of the vocal lines. Listen.
No matter how I try, find my way through the same old jam.
You can hear some artifacts in the reverbs, but that's pretty amazing for a song that was recorded on analog tape 55 years ago. Next, let's move on to the Velvet Sundown to see if we can tell if it's AI generated. Now, if it is, what I suspect is that it will be difficult for it to separate the tracks, and you're going to hear a ton of artifacts in the different parts. Let's actually take the verse part here and listen to that. Let's listen to the vocals, see what it sounds like.
Dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother.
Not bad. Let's listen to the guitars here. That's bad. Okay. Let's listen to the drums.
Raise your...
Let's see what else we get here. That's it. So this sounds like the AI program that I'm using is having a lot of trouble splitting these apart. I'm actually using the one that's in Logic Pro. So this is Apple's version of AI that is a track splitter. And it does a really good job typically of doing it. But this is having a lot of problems, and I suspect that it may be because this is an AI track, and every time that you have an AI song, they are full of artifacts. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that it's trained on MP3s. As far as I know, it's trained on very low quality MP3s where they feed in the entire mix, so it can't actually separate out the parts. So the real important data that these AI companies need, like Suno or Udio or Udio, however you say it, is they need multi-tracks so they can hear the voices and things like that. But one of the problems is that even if you have the multi-track, you don't have the effects that were used in the mix unless they were printed in the session, which is possible. But for old songs, that's not the case. But you can hear how this is really struggling to separate out the guitar parts and the keyboard parts and things like that. You hear some vocal parts that have a little weird artifacts in them, but the guitars and keyboards it's doing a really bad job.
So it's really interesting to see how he breaks down. And of course, he also uses an AI tool to split the tracks, right? Because he doesn't have access to Led Zeppelin's original tracks, and just to explain a little bit to the audience, when you record music in studio as a band, you record each instrument in a different track, and then you mix it then afterwards in a mixer room with different volumes to try to compose the music. So the vocals, each instrument is recorded in a different track and it mixed it afterwards. When it's AI generated, the biggest difference is that when it's AI generated, it generates everything all together. It doesn't generate each track or each instrument in a different track. So it's really hard to extract because there's a lot of artifacts. So it's still better at extracting the vocals, but the rest of the instruments gets all mushed out and mixed up. So that's more or less how it works. And one of the things that he explains that I thought it was really interesting is that most of these AI models were trained with low quality MP3 files, right? That also doesn't help the extraction to happen properly.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason that you can see in his analysis that is AI generated, because maybe the best way of creating a good data is to have the music as a whole, and then all the tracks separate, for the AI to understand each one of the tracks separately. Because you can see in one of the guitars, it wasn't the full note, when he was playing. So it was interesting to see that it's not finishing the note, when he was separating the tracks. So this kind of shows that it's AI generated, or it's something artificial, not natural as normal music setup. So it's interesting to see the analysis of Led Zeppelin, whereas every instrument is kind of super clear, and you can see the waves, they're super complete. And when the AI generated is like the small waves, so it is interesting, his analysis, because he was right on the point, And there's a buffer, not a buffer, but there's a sound that he shows in the end that is just the reading, like something that is not a real instrument being played, It's just the vibe of the music. So it is a really good analysis. So I do recommend people to check it out, the full video, because it's really good, really good.
Yeah, we're gonna link it to show notes.
Yeah.
So, just following up, so eventually, I don't know when this happened, but very recently they updated their Spotify bio and then confirmed what everybody suspected, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna read what they wrote in their Spotify bio now. What they say is, quote, "The Velvet Sundown is a synthetic music project guided by human creation and composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence." End quote. So it was obvious, but now they officialize it. Before they were trying to pretend they were a real band, but there was too much pressure for them to unveil what they actually are, right?
But I think it would be nice if they do like Gorillas, something like that. He could do something like that, create some personas or some characters that he can use and do a live concert, and And I believe good musicians can transform this AI into real music, with real notes and stuff like that. So, but of course, you need so to cast these people. You need to make a selection of the right tone of voice and stuff like that. Maybe the voice will be the hardest to mimic, in this case. But the music itself, it's doable, I think. And that would be nice if you have a concert with a fully or AI generated something, so.
But then what makes them different from a band and a DJ, right? Because if you cannot
Yeah.
have instruments playing the song, it's just gonna hit play on a button and then you're gonna have a. So
Yeah.
you need something else, right? At least I think we're at least in my perspective or in my opinion, I don't think we're ready for that. But maybe in the near future, where these tools evolve in a way that you can actually compose a track, maybe using multiple tracks, then maybe it's a real story, because then you can mix it up. Somebody can actually do something with it, and then you can actually add real vocals, right, to the song instead of just generating everything.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. If you add real vocals, then you can sing live, and then you have a support of a AI generated band. So then as I said, like it attracts like different things, and if you compare the comparison that he did in the video was comparing to Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin was the biggest example of a band that was completely different from the record and the live shows, especially because they were, I don't know, I love Led Zeppelin, and the way that they were playing, like Jimmy Page on stage was crazy. He was using violin, I don't know the name of the stick, the violin stick, and then in the guitar, he was doing crazy stuff on stage. So even Robert Plant was singing differently from the record and the live shows. So that was the differentiate of Led Zeppelin, So that was something that attracts people to go on stage. So maybe that's the turning point of an AI band or AI generated music.
I think the Beatles is another example, right? At some point they basically stopped doing live concerts because they couldn't reproduce what they were experimenting in studio live, because there was so much experimentation, so many different things that you can do on studio that you cannot replicate in a live concert. And I think Led Zeppelin was a bit of the same in that sense. But I think at least the way I see this band, Velvet Sundown, for me, it was more like an experiment, right? What would happen if you just you try to generate some fairly good music, put it on Spotify and see what happens, and then we're seeing the result of that project now. So I think it was quite a bold test, but. Just to finalize, let's just what does this mean for music creators, right? Like musicians, producers, and fans. What do you think? Because I know you have a musical background. You used to play in a band.
Yeah.
You play guitar and so on. So maybe it's good to have your perspective on it. What do you think?
I like it actually. I feel that anyone can do music now, so as the same as images, so of course we have a lot of crap, like in all the AI generated world, we have good stuff and we have bad stuff, and I feel that if you can create something that how can I say that, to be a musician, there's a lot of effort on that, so it took years, maybe decades, to get in a stage that you can feel that you are good in an instrument and to create some good music. And I think, for example, the electronic music kind of breaks this standard, when Avicii is one of good example. He was creating music with Fruit Loops, so he was the best in doing that. So he was creating synthetic music with like online instruments, let's say.
Like samplers.
Yeah, with samplers and everything. The hip hop music do the same, with samplers. So I think it's a natural evolution of our society. Our society is kind of turning towards AI generated things. So I feel it's a natural pathway in the direction that we are going. And I think it's not gonna switch the live music. It's not gonna switch the good musicians. And probably it's gonna enhance some people that don't have the money, don't have the power and the structure. So I feel it's the same for images, and the same for videos. People that don't have the capacity to have like the same a producer, a high standard producer, he can use Suno, for example, to enhance their creativity. So I believe it is a natural pathway. We cannot run away from that, and it can just use as a tool. So, what do you think about that?
I think we started to figure it out how to use this technology, AI. I mean, in the cinema, for example, why you don't exclude humans, right? We made this episode about ancestry. I think that's a good way to do that. Basically, what they did, just if you haven't listened to the episode, they combine producing a short film using actors and some visual effects made by AI. So it was a combination of two scenarios. So it was combined in traditional cinema with visual effects made by AI. And I think we're going to find that balance as well for music. And I think some people already started to play around with that. But like you mentioned, there's been people experiment with this technology where they record their albums in a traditional way and then just add some some sound effects using AI. So I think we're going to see this technology evolve in a way that it's going to be a hybrid, not just fully generated or not necessarily completely out of the picture. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think that if you are a good musician, for example, you can test. For example, if you are already do like poetry or do lyrics, for music, and you already have this mindset of music, you can definitely test different styles of music on this AI generated, tools, and you can even test different vibes for music. So I think it can enhance even the musicians, if they know how to use it and they know how to do music, So maybe they can use to refine their own style, and to get some in a different level without the need of a producer or the need of a big studio behind your back,
It's going to lower the bar for people that are not very experienced but have some good ideas to enter the market, basically. But I think there's a long way, especially with music, right, to get to a professional level. But it's it's exciting to see this how this is evolving. We're gonna definitely keep an eye on it.
But can I just say one small thing? There's a podcast from a big musician in Brazil that he plays at Angra, Rafael Bittencourt. So he had a podcast right now. Then he receives some other musicians and they play together, And seeing them play live in this live stream without cuts, without like the editions and everything. And I saw they're playing, they're making mistakes, and the way that they were like doing their jams, I saw myself when I was 16 years old, I saw the same things that I was when I was playing at home. I saw in these guys, when they were playing live. And then it makes me reflect on, I was putting too much pressure on myself, to be better and to be perfect. Even when I was playing home, like doing the learning process and everything. When I saw that guys, I just saw that I had the potential too, you know. Everyone has the potential because they do the same mistakes, they do the same things, you know. They think the same as we at home. So for new musicians, just do it, you know. Just continue, just go ahead and believe in yourself. Try, and then at some point you get in a stage, you know, in a state that you can feel that your music is good, you know. So just continue, and then use these tools to improve your music. That's what I can say.
Just to finalize and to build on top of what you just said, I think this is true for any creative craft, right? You have to put the hours, you have to do a lot of experimentation until you get inside your voice, until you get to a point where you feel that what you're doing is actually good or in a professional level. So there's no way to escape from that. It's experimentation and creativity, right? So, but yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. We just wanted to give our reaction to this AI band, and then just tell a little bit of the story and then show the analysis. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. See you next week. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's free and helps us a lot. This way, it can help us also reach new listeners. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us at hello@humanaixp.com or connect with us on Instagram. Thanks for listening. See you next week.